Hi, this is David Wallerman, and together we're going to talk about a scary subject. We're going to talk about modes. Before we get into the subject, you should know that there's two concepts that I would like you to be aware of. Intervals, you need to know your intervals in order to make the most out of this lesson, and you need to have a background with pentatonic scales, 5-note scales, minor pentatonic scales and major pentatonic scales. If you're aware of these two concepts, intervals and pentatonic scales, we're good to go. First, let's define what a mode is. A mode is a scale. That's it. A series of notes that are organized into a logical way, and that's going to create the system from which you're going to use notes to speak to your audience. There's different alphabets in the human languages. You speak Greek, Greek alphabet. English, you use our alphabet. And depending on who you speak to, you're going to use a certain alphabet to make words. Same with music. Depending on the context of the music, the key of the music, you're going to use certain scales that are going to match that key, and with those scales, you're going to make words, licks, to express yourself. So that's why we're studying all these scales. They're just tools to express yourself. In this lesson, we're going to concentrate on minor modes, minor scales. They're minor because of the third. The third is that interval that gives the nature to the key or the scale or the chord you're playing with. If the third is minor, you're dealing with a minor key. If the third is major, major key. So all the modes we're going to talk about are going to have a minor third. They're going to have that in common, a minor third. The modes we're going to talk about today have 7 notes. Diatonic scales, 7-note scales. Pentatonic scales, 5 notes. Diatonic, 7. 7-note scales, and they have a minor third. We're going to talk about 3 very commonly used minor modes, minor scales, and they all have Greek names. Dorian, Phrygian, Aeolian. All 3 of them are minor. They're going to work on minor chords. They have a minor third. Let's start by taking a look at the formula of these 3 modes. The Dorian mode has a root, a major second, a minor third, a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, a major sixth, and a minor seventh. The Phrygian mode has a root, a minor second, a minor third, a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, a minor sixth, and a minor seventh. The Aeolian mode, also known as the natural minor scale, has a root, a major second, a minor third, a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, a minor sixth, and a minor seventh. Let's take a look at these 3 scales, and we're going to compare their formulas. Well, they all have a root. Of course, every scale has a root. That's the reference note, the note from which you're going to start the scale. But there's other similarities. All of these scales have in common the root, the minor third, the perfect fourth, the perfect fifth, the minor seventh. 5 notes. Penta. It's a pentascale. They have in common a pentascale, and it's a minor pentatonic scale. The minor pentatonic scale is made of these 5 common notes that these 3 modes have. So Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian have in common the minor pentatonic scale. So really, if you know your minor pentatonic scale, you just need to add 2 notes to that minor pentatonic scale to get the mode. And these 2 notes are the second and the sixth. For the Dorian scale, we're going to have a major second and a major sixth. The Phrygian, a minor second, a minor sixth. The Aeolian, a major second, a minor sixth. Very important. Spend time memorizing this, and then we're going to apply it to our minor pentatonic. We're going to work in the key of A. A is going to be our root. So we're going to work in A Dorian, A Phrygian, and A Aeolian, A natural minor. We're going to start with our minor pentatonic scale in its first position. We're in the key of A. So A minor pentatonic. Little reminder, here it is. If we're dealing with the Dorian mode, we're going to have to add a major second and a major sixth. That's why your intervals are so important. We're going to add these 2 notes on the diagram. I'm going to add a major second anytime I have a major second here, and a major sixth anytime I have a major sixth. Let's develop that over the first octave. I've got my root on the 6th string, which is A, 5th fret. Major second is going to be found on the 6th string, 7th fret. That's one of the additional notes that we added to the minor pentatonic scale. Minor third, 6th string, 8th fret. Moving on to the perfect fourth, 5th string, 5th fret. Perfect fifth, 5th string, 7th fret. And then the major 6th, which is one of the additional notes that we're adding to our minor pentatonic scale. That major 6th, we can play it here on the 4th string, 4th fret. Minor 7th, 4th string, 5th fret. We now have 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the Dorian scale. Again, within the Dorian scale, you find a minor pentatonic scale. We just added the major 2nd and the major 6th. Let's continue developing that scale in the first position in this area of the fretboard, and we're going to do this an octave higher. So we landed on the minor 7th. We're going to move on to the root, this time on the 4th string, 7th fret. That's our root. Major 2nd, 3rd string, 4th fret. Minor 3rd, 4th string, 5th fret. Perfect 4th, 3rd string, 7th fret. Moving on to the perfect 5th, 2nd string, 5th fret. Major 6th, 2nd string, 7th fret. And the minor 7th, which is on the 2nd string, 8th fret. And here is our Dorian scale developed over 2 octaves on that first position. And we're going to continue on the first string to finish that position by adding the root again. That's 2 octaves higher than what we started with. 1st string, 5th fret. Major 2nd, 1st string, 7th fret. Minor 3rd, 1st string, 8th fret. Let's move on to the next of these 3 commonly used minor modes, which is the Phrygian mode. Again, the Phrygian mode is made of 5 notes that are part of the minor pentatonic system, and we're going to add some kind of 2nd and some kind of 6th. In this case, for the Phrygian, we're going to add to the minor pentatonic a minor 2nd and a minor 6th. We're going to use the same position for the minor pentatonic that we previously used for the Dorian mode. We're in A minor pentatonic, A Phrygian, and that position is the first position. And if I add a minor 2nd, I'm going to have a minor 2nd on the 6th string, 6th fret. It's just a half step above the root. So in this case, here's the Phrygian mode in A. Root on the 6th string, 5th fret. Moving on to the 6th fret, minor 2nd, minor 3rd. 5th string, 5th fret for the 4th. 5th string, 7th fret for the perfect 5th. The minor 6th this time is going to come on the 5th string, 8th fret. And the minor 7th, 4th string, 5th fret. Here's the Phrygian scale, A Phrygian. Phrygian scale, Phrygian mode, A Phrygian over 1 octave. I'm going to play this all over in my first position to cover this area of the fretboard. Here it is. That's the first position of A Phrygian. Let's move on to the third and last of the commonly used minor modes we're going to talk about, the Aeolian mode, natural minor scale, Aeolian scale, same thing. We already have the 5 notes that are going to be our foundation of that scale, the minor pentatonic scale. We're working in A Aeolian, A is our root, and we're going to add to our minor pentatonic a major 2nd and a minor 6th. Here's how it looks like. We're going to play our root on the 6th string, 5th fret, major 2nd, 6th string, 7th fret, minor 3rd, 6th string, 8th fret, perfect 4th, 5th string, 5th fret, perfect 5th, 5th string, 7th fret, minor 6th, 5th string, 8th fret, and minor 7th, 4th string, 5th fret. Here it is, over 1 octave, A Aeolian. Again, you're recognizing that scale, and that diatonic scale, 7-note scale, you recognize the 5 notes from the minor pentatonic. And let's continue developing that Aeolian scale over the first position across the 6th strings. Here it is all together. Again, it's very important that you know which types of 2nd and 6th we're adding to the Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian scale. Remember, if you get lost, pentatonic mode, it's going to work. These 3 diatonic scales have in common the 5 notes that make a minor pentatonic scale. And it's very important that you know where to place the second and the sixth within the context of these scales. Now that we developed the first position for these three modes, we're going to apply them. It's one thing to know the fingering of these scales, but it's another thing that is even better to hear the scales and apply them. So we're going to use three different backing tracks. The first one was built in A Dorian, the second one in A Phrygian, and the third one in A Aeolian. And we're going to practice that scale in its first position, and we're just going to develop our ears to hear the color of that scale. We're just going to ascend and descend the scale over the corresponding backing tracks several times to give your ear a chance to get used to the sound of these scales. Remember that a scale by itself, if you just play the position, doesn't really give you the color of the scale. In order to have the color of the scale, you need to play over a backing track, because it's the contrast between the backing track, the foundation, and the notes that you're playing that is going to give you the color of the scale. So here are three little examples: ascend, descend, each of these modes: Dorian, Phrygian, Aeolian. To do this several times because these scales are so close to each other, they have 5 notes in common, that you really need to spend time developing your ear to hear the second and the sixth. Those 2 notes are the notes that are going to differentiate one minor mode from the other. Anything you can do to create a stronger connection between what you hear inside and what you play is a good exercise. Learning licks is a great way to do that. Listening to the backing tracks and singing your licks before you play them is another good way to do it. Imagining a melody in your head and then trying to reproduce it on your instrument. Really, your goal when you're memorizing a scale is to know the formula of the scale, because that's going to tell you which type of chord it's going to work over, and hearing the scale. And remember that modes can be seen as glorified pentatonic scales. Pentatonic, you just add the second and the sixth, and you'll have one of these modes. Here's a little recap. The Dorian mode can be understood as a minor pentatonic with an additional major second and major sixth. The Phrygian mode can be seen as a minor pentatonic with an additional minor second, minor sixth. And the Aeolian mode, also known as the natural minor scale, can be seen as a minor pentatonic with an additional major second, minor sixth. The backing tracks are all in the key of A Dorian, A Phrygian, A Aeolian. Make sure that you can anticipate the sound of the notes. If you can hear it, you can play it. Be creative, be consistent, do this over and over, review things. Even if you don't have your guitar, you can still review the formula of these modes, their names, and what makes them so special. Is it a minor second? Is it a major second? Minor sixth? Major sixth? Be aware of these things, practice well. See you next time.